All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CPD webinar. My name is Bryce, and I'm the lead Unreal Engine 4 developer at AccuCities. Unreal Engine 4 and Unreal Engine 5 nowadays that we've made um, a new change to the engine. And today we're going to be talking about the Plan.City app, which is an app that we've developed in-house at AccuCities. And it's the product that you can see, the application that you can see in front of you, hopefully, um, in your screens at the moment. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about how it works from the perspective of the front end, the tools, the data layers that it enables you to use, as well as some of the other functionalities, such as being able to navigate the app in different ways. Also, I look at the model that populates the scenes that you're seeing. And of course, at the end, if you have any questions or anything that you want to ask, please feel free to do so. I'm going to be sharing my screen most of the time, so I won't be seeing any questions that you write up until the end. But please feel free to ask anything. It's a small team that creates this app, and you'll see some of the tools that we've created so far, but we're always looking towards seeing more additions, and we rely on feedback for that and for your feedback and your suggestions. We work off of the demands that our clients have or the suggestions that they put forward. So we take those into consideration, and whenever we can add anything that might make the lives of our clients easier, we certainly do so. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the Plan.City app, how it works, and the possibilities that you have when you use it. And before that, before we even talk about any of the tools or the things that will be at your disposal, if we work with the app, I'm going to allow me to talk about the model that makes up the city, the view that you're seeing. Let me just turn the camera around a little bit. And since this is a stream of the app that I'm playing, please forgive me if there are any hiccups or any delays in the stream. That's usually the case with real-time graphics stream over the internet. I'm going to try and move the camera as smoothly as I can, but you know how this goes. Sometimes it looks a bit jerky, but I can assure you that on my end, it's very smooth. And so should be at your end if you are running it from either your machines or a cloud version. So what are we seeing in front of us right now? This is the London model that we have created in-house, made out of 2019 imagery. That means that we've captured everything that you see using aerial photogrammetry dating back to 2019. This is the second iteration of our model. The first one was actually captured in 2016, so we roughly update the model every 2 to 3 years. And we do this all at once. So we take all of the available imagery, we just look at the entirety of London, and we capture everything once again. So there are no gaps, no discontinuities, no anything that might be a mixture of different data sets, right? Everything is new. And just like we did that for this model in its 2019 version, we are also doing that for 2022. So we are currently working on the latest update to the model. It will be the third installment. And we are using it, again, using 2022 imagery, so images that are just a few months old. And we aim to have that ready by the end of the year. So actually, it's in a month's time, something like that. And you can see that all of the areas that you can see in front of you, the detail, the roofing detail, the chimneys, everything that we capture, that at the moment dates back to 2019. even though the date that you can see at the bottom of the screen says 2022. That's a different thing. That's the time of day system, which I'm going to change now because it looks a bit wintry, and I kind of prefer to pretend like we are in August with some nice green leaves on the trees rather than the the look of everything is about to fall and we are going to head into all doom and gloom. So yeah, let's pretend, since we are in the virtual world, that it's summer again. So this is the entirety of the model that we have captured. There's a little bit of an asterisk to this, as we have kind of like two different models in here. The area that you see in front of you is the area that has been captured in its highest detail, in the highest detail that we work by default within AccuCities. So we capture everything that we can see through aerial photogrammetry, so everything is accurate to 15 centimeters, and obviously the details on the roof. Then we can also produce other products that contain facade detail and extra things like textures, materials, things like that. But they are a bit more bespoke, so they don't appear throughout this model at the moment, right? But what does appear is something on the edge, what we call the background model. This extends for thousands of square kilometers around us, literally thousands of square kilometers around us. And it's made out of more simplified models. You can probably see the boundary or the edge between what is our model captured in all of its glory and then some background model that we have created through automatic techniques that is still quite accurate, but obviously not as accurate. And yeah, we just use it for display purposes in here. Now, the data set, the 2019 data set, same as well as the 2016 one or the upcoming 2022, is accurate to 10 to 15 centimeters across all axes, across the entirety of the area that we've captured, which is roughly 80 square kilometers that you can see goes from all the way from Canary Wharf to the City of London in the center, Battersea, Hyde Park, Battersea. Those are the areas that fall within that 60 to 80 square kilometers, right? And you can see that the area more or less, well, actually matches the areas that you can see where you can see that we have trees, right? We also capture those assets, trees, their height, their width, the width of the canopy. So they are quite accurate in terms of their representation. And then something else that I can probably show within this app are what we call the level 4 models. These buildings that show a bit more detail are a bit more bespoke. So, for example, the Oxford Tower over here, or some of the buildings in the background, such as the Shard, the Walkie Talkie, Tower 42. We also have the US Embassy. We create many different buildings to this specification, but we don't always include them here just for visualization purposes, right? We like to keep things simple in the app. Because at the end of the day, what we use this for is for visualization purposes, but also for creating tools that we'll see later and that allow our clients to conduct studies or different proposals and projects within the app. So, having said that, let's take a look at another data set, parallel data set that doesn't exist at the moment technically. That is the future skyline. That's another data set, another set of models that we capture according to planning applications or all of the information that we can gather. And if I scroll this all the way over there, show the TBD layer as well, and then click on the show building info, you can see a visual representation of everything that of all of the buildings that are going to appear in the future. And if we click on any of these tags, we'll be able to retrieve information about those buildings or those projects, such as the name of the building, its address, things like the status, if it's currently under construction, what the completion year is expected to be, who the developer or the architect is. We capture all that data from planning applications or just everything that we can get our hands into that we know is going to appear. We, we we capture these data, and this is something that we curate ourselves and we provide to our clients so that they can make decisions based off that information. Maybe they are creating a new building close to one of these new proposals, and they want to know how it's going to affect their project, or for any of the myriad possible reasons, right? So this is another of the data sets that we offer in-house alongside the existing buildings, which, by the way, having that existing data also helps to identify any potential areas where buildings are going to be developed. That's also very helpful. So that's probably all I have to say with regards to the data sets and the different models that we have and that we have captured. So let's now move on to the navigation part, to the data layers and tools. So all of those things that we provide with the app that go beyond the modeling part. Let me turn off the TBD layer and turn off the building info and probably go back to 2022. There we go. So if we take a look at the main panel of the app, you can see that there are three different areas: navigation, data layers, and tools. We provide different functionalities through these different panels. Pretty self-explanatory, I think. Navigation is just one of the first panel that you would probably want to go to if you want to navigate the model in a different way, and also create things like create a presentation or look for a particular postcode. If you want the building that you want to visit, you can type its postcode address in here and just navigate that way. Then data layers is the section of the app where we've included all of the data sets that we could get our hands into that go beyond what we capture, right? So things like flood analysis, the future Skynet that we've already seen, historic England, protected views, PTAL, public transport accessibility layer data. All of those data sets, they're included in their own tab. And finally, we have the tools section, where we've included things such as the build tool, the import and export functionality, or the viewshed tool. So all of those functionalities that we've created ourselves that work in tandem with our model to provide insights and different useful information to our users or to our clients. And this is what I was mentioning before. We highly appreciate any suggestions, anything that we can do to increase the reach of the app. If we can make it more useful to any of our users, we welcome any feedback, so that we can any suggestions, any ideas on what to work next. That's always great to have, and I personally enjoy creating many of these tools, so it's great to have for me. And as an aside, there's a fourth panel, which is kind of like we call it the settings panel, where you can control things like the time and the weather, different control settings, so the speed at which you fly throughout the app, graphic settings, documentation. So we also have a comprehensive list of the tools, the navigation, the data layers that we included in the app, properly explained in here, just so that our clients know how to get to speed with the app. So yeah, that's an overview of the functionalities. So let's take a look at what each of them do next. And let me reset to local time. Well, let's not do that. Well, just reset to local time, just so I can keep track of the time here. Going back to the different categories, exploring them in a little bit more depth. First, if we go to the navigation panel, we have several options available to us: the drone mode, overview, walking systems. So those are three different navigation or control systems that we've included. Currently, we're playing in the drone mode, The drone mode is a free flying system that lets you basically move around the app however you want, right? So you can go up, down, look wherever you want in any given angle. So you're not restricted in any way as to as to what you can do. It is quite nice to have if you're especially if you're playing on with the app in a computer, right? It works well with a mouse and a keyboard. The overview follows a similar logic, but it's tailor-made for other devices. So, for example, touch controls benefit from this type of character. It's more similar to a Google Maps style of navigation or a 3D modeling environment, 3D app kind of navigation, where you simply you're kind of locked to a top-down perspective. You can always navigate. You can still move around the app and change the angle of the camera, but you're limited up to a certain degree. So you can't go any lower than this. For example, you can't get into any of the buildings. It's a bit more locked as an experience. Again, tailor-made for other devices, right? And then we have the walking mode, which is a system that lets you basically spawn a human character wherever you want, even on top of a building if you want to do that, and just and just navigate the model as if you were a pedestrian. So if I click on drop to selected location, you can see that we spawn a human character. We haven't named him, but we are always open to suggestions on that front. So with the human character, you can navigate the city as if as if you were walking around in a video game. You can jump. You can switch into first-person mode, which is also good. It might be a good option, especially if you want to work with interiors within the app. It lets you visualize everything in just great detail. It's a great fit for any VR headsets that you might want to use in tandem with the app. It just puts you in the perspective of the character. In fact, we love the VR headsets to using these for the overview mode. You can switch perspectives. You can crouch. You can walk. You can flip if you want to. So that's another option. We hope to make a video game out of this as well at some point, sometime soon. But basically that's what it does, right? It puts you in the shoes of a human, just so you're able to better give an accurate depiction of the built environment as seen through your own eyes. It gives a better sense of scale, I think, compared to the other two visualization methods, I think. So that's it for the 3 different navigation systems that we have: drone, overview, and walking. Let me switch back to the drone mode and navigate the model. On top of that, we also have other tools within that same section. So the presentation panel allows us to create new presentations. If I create a new one, I can give it a name. Today's presentation, something like that. And then we can add slides to the presentation. So adding slides means that you include new camera positions that you can then navigate, that you can then use to navigate around. So for example, say that you are trying to convey a specific idea and you want to focus on this building over here, on the 3-place area. And maybe you want to approach the building from different angles, like so. You want to create a narrative around that, so you could do that. Just add slides, and then you can save the presentation. And some other day, when you come back to the app, you can go to today's presentation, hit on the present mode, and just cycle through the different viewpoints that you created before. You can even hide the UI if you wanted to, just to remove the user interface. And you can use this in combination with some of the other tools that we'll see later on, such as the import function, for example, to bring your own buildings, or the inventory system just to be able to catalog or highlight certain areas of the model. You can export images out of the app just to create visuals for your own project. So those are things that the presentation mode enables you to do. Now, the go-to button is a simple system that allows you to quickly navigate to different areas, right? So you can see that we have Canary Wharf, Hyde Park, the Imperial War Museum, London Eye, Alder Street, all of these different options that quickly allow you to navigate to these areas. So for example, if I click on St. Paul's Cathedral, you can see that we quickly come to the St. Paul's Cathedral at the request of that button. And what else? Well, yeah, we could choose the Tower of London. There are different ones, mostly located evenly spaced throughout the 60 to 80 square kilometers that we have captured in here. And then finally, the postcode search option. As I said before, it lets you type anything that you want and then see if there are any matching results. So for example, if I type SE1, you can see that it gives us 10 entries. There are more than that, but we limit the results to 10 entries, and we prompt you to further fine-tune your search if you want something more precise. But out of these 10 pins that have appeared in the distance, if we click on any of them, it will give us the exact the exact postcode for that. So if I type SE10AD and I click on search, you can see that that sole entry is the one that has appeared as it should be, right? So this is just another way to navigate the model. Now, if we, having seen all these options, we can move on to the data layers. But again, if you have any doubts or questions, we can probably pick those up later. So onto the data layers now. What is that panel? So this is a panel that allows you to visualize some of the databases that we've captured, or that we've retrieved from elsewhere, or that we've just included in some way within the app. And they are an example of they are also an example of the different types of data that we can bring in. So you'll see things like live data feeds, things like static databases being just pulled from the internet or curated by ourselves, just like the Future Skyline. So if we go quickly, just one by one, you can see that we have the boroughs. Boroughs database is just something that will list all of the boroughs within London, and it will show you where those boroughs are, as well as the limits, the boundaries, in case you want to know. For example, imagine that you're a construction company and you need to find the transport for something. Well, am I in the City of London? Am I in Southwark? That's kind of like the question that this data layer answers. Camden, here, there it is. That's what this data layer does. Then the flood analysis. If we toggle it, you'll be able to see that we've painted the model according to the flood map provided by, I think it was, it's an open government license. So it's a public database that can be found on the internet. This just lists the different flood zone categories that we have across London, as well as the barriers or the flood defenses that we have in the city. So just an example of a static database. The Future Skyline is the one that we saw before, listing all of the buildings that are part of it that will appear in the future. Then Historic England is another interesting one, especially for London, because if we click on it, we'll be able to display pins that show, those buildings across London that are subject to some type of protection, right? So, for example, we have all of these pins that you can see. There are many of them, and we can click on them just like we did before for the Future Skyline, and it will give us the name of the building, the grade under which it has been listed, the list date, and if there are any extra fields, the area, nodes, amend date, you have access to that as well. We have the listed buildings, parks and gardens, scheduled monuments, and World Heritage sites. All of the databases have entries within London, so we can take a look at them. So, for example, within the parks and gardens, we can see all of the ones that appear on that database. Finsbury Circus, Barbican, all of those, right? What else? Yeah, so that would be Historic England, an example of a database that we can query that originated from that organization that we put it into the app. And you can imagine that these types of databases, even though we are taking a look at these particular examples, there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to include anything like this, but different, right? So imagine that you're working for a company where you have different spreadsheets listing your developments or something like that. You can put that in here just as easily. Then we have the protected views, which are just a recollection of different views that we've included here that show, we can click on show view from camera. These protected views show images or show views that, as the word implies, are protected, right? That show certain landmarks that need to be protected. So things like they are usually focusing on St. Paul's, but this one in particular, you can see that it's looking towards the shard, and you can see how we are overlaying a view from our model, and the LVMF picture, the picture that we retrieved from the LVMF document that defines these protected views dating back from 2012, I think. So you can see how we overlay both, and this is important to within certain industries, just to make sure that the visibility of certain elements is maintained. And it's also an opportunity for me to show the accuracy of the model, right? You can see that the shard was built. It's definitely an old photo because the news building wasn't built at that time. I believe it dates from 2012. And we've curated 3 different views. This one, the view from, they have different codes. We've created those three. No reason why we couldn't include any others, but I think it proves the point, and it also gives an example to our clients of the different things that they can do right within the app. Verified views, for example, is something that they can do. So, for example, if you're working on that department, why not bring your photos over here and just check that the model that you're creating complies with those verified views, or create images that can be later verified by the appropriate authorities, right? So that's the protected views. Then we have PTAL data, so public transport accessibility levels, a data set bespoke to London that shows how easy or difficult it is to hop onto public transport, and basically how well connected the given area is. With the color red, specifying that it's good, as opposed to usually red means bad, but in this case, red means good. And the more we lean towards blue, the worse. The longer it would take someone to just hop onto the public transport network, right? So if we toggle that off, then we have some pulse height grid. This gives us the height around St. Paul. So we wouldn't be able to, as a developer, construction company, architect, we wouldn't be able to build anything higher than that, right? So this gives us a good approximation of how tall our developments can be. We can do things like use transparent materials in case we are working with any of the other tools that we'll see later on, just to be able to, okay, I'm gonna plot a building here. How high can I make it? This helps you achieve and answer those types of questions. We also have the traffic cameras. This is an example of a live database that we can query. that gives us the current live images of those cameras that are working. You can see that this one is not, but hopefully one of them will be. Yeah. So here it is, the Tower Bridge camera. This gives us all of these cameras give us a 10-second loop of updated every 5 or 10 minutes because of because for safety reasons. But we can query those cameras and see what those cameras are seeing basically. Um, and again, the feed gets updated every 5 or 10 minutes. So the same way again, this might or might not be useful to you, but you can probably take this as well ideas of what you could implement. For example, if you were using the app for your own purposes. Say that you're working on a particular site and you want to retrieve the live feed from the cameras that are working there, you could do that. All right. Next, tube lines. They show this database basically shows the tube lines around London alongside the different stations, the services that they provide, underground, DLR, overground, Elizabeth line, those kinds of things. That type of information, that's what you can retrieve using these data sets. Then viewing corridors. Um, these are similar to the protected views that we saw before. In fact, they come from the same document. And the question that they answer is, well, kind of like also in a similar vein to the same pulse hybrid that we saw before. It these data set tells us how high a particular building can be, especially if it's within these within the model that you see, right? You can see that the starting viewpoint is all the way in the distance, and it goes to St. Paul's. You can see that it's divided into three different colors: red, orange, and yellow, and that tells us how important the area is. So, for example, the area shaded in red, that means that you wouldn't be able to build anything that blocks that view, right? You wouldn't be able to build anything taller than that area or that sticks out of that area because it would block the direct view that they are trying to, that the document, that the LVMF document is trying to protect. So yeah, just another example of a static data table or data set that can be imported. Now, if we move to and then the last data set that we are going to take a look at is the air quality data. An example of a live database that we can query to basically know the quality of the air that we breathe, as recorded by several weather stations scattered throughout London. So if we click, you can see that little green icons, cloud icons, have started to appear. And if we click on them, you can see that certain pollutants appear on top of those clouds. So for example, I clicked on the City of London Wharf station, weather station, and it's recording the NO2 pollutants, and it's given us the quality index of 1. Well, basically this means that the quality quality levels of the contamination levels for that particular pollutant are good. This is all defined by its own database. We could go into the details of that, but basically, it's just a way to represent the data. We can do this hourly, daily, or yearly, and this is an example of a database that we are querying live, right? We also have the daily results, the yearly results. Let me try to find probably another station that shows more pollutants. We are now retrieving the daily results. You can see the loading bar working in the background. So let's choose that one, for example, has 3 different pollutants. The one in Hackney. So all of the quality levels, quality index 0, 1, those means that station is recording well, values that are okay. Opposed to, for example, the quality index go from 0 to 10, 10 being really bad, and 0 being okay. Right, so, and again, this is all being queried live. So there's a database that we are querying, those values are being parsed, and we are feeding that or displaying that back to the user. So just like we're doing that, we could do that with anything else, right? Imagine that you have a spreadsheet on your server or for, on your machines that you want to query in real time. You could do that. I don't know, examples of particular I don't know, apartments that are being sold. Well, where is that apartment? How much does it cost? The possibilities are quite big. We're just trying to demonstrate the examples of that within the app, right? So those were all databases or data lakes. That's what we call them within the app. That's information that already exists and that we curate and translate into the application, into Plan.City. But what about doing new and interesting things with the data that we have, with the model, with the underlying model? That's what the tools panel stands for. And we've included several tools. We are always working on more, but for this, at the moment, these are the tools that are available to most of our users. Measurement tools, builder tool, import and export. We are gonna take a look at them now. And this is an area where I'm sure you might have ideas on something that could benefit your workflow. And if that's the case, we love to hear it. We would love to hear them. So just keep that in mind. I might come back to this again at the end of the session. So measurement tools, starting from the beginning. Measurement tools do, this panel does what it says it does. So it gives you certain options to measure the building. So first we have the point-to-point measurement option that allows us to click on several parts of the model, and it will give us the distance between those points. So for example, from here to here, we can see that we can retrieve the location of the points displayed in British National Grid coordinates. Then the distance between those 2 points, the 2D distance, so the distance without taking into account the height difference. This is very similar. So 570 meters and 20 centimeters is the 3D distance. 170 meters is the 2D distance. But if I click somewhere else, you can see that now that those units change quite a lot. For example, that last measurement has a height difference of 122 meters, and the total distance of the areas that of the lines that we've drawn is 1 kilometer and 400 meters, more than 300 meters. So again, pretty easy to use. Then walking distance is a system that quickly highlights, gives you an approximation of how long it would take a pedestrian to traverse the city, right? Quite simple again. And then we have the height check tool that allows users to, basically create a ruler that they can place anywhere in the model to give them an example of how high a particular building is, for example. It works in a very similar way to the point-to-point measurement tool option, but it's just another visual representation that we have here. So again, measurement. Those were the measurement tools. Then we have the builder tool, which allow users to quickly sketch something, right? So for example, if they want to create a simple shape, they can just, they can sketch it like so. Close the shape, then assign a particular height. They can close the roof if they want to, and then they can export this design into an external 3D editing software and to create something better, probably. But this gives you the ability to quickly sketch something, see if it conforms maybe with some of the data layers that we've seen before, and just sketch something that can be then iterated upon if you use it, especially in combination with the export tool. It allows you to create a model out of what you see on the screen. So that's something else that can be done. If we click on finish building and then go to the import and export panel, which is the next one, and we hit on export, that would create an FBX out of the shape that you saw. And just like we are using the sketch mode to export something out of the app, we could use the import function to bring something in, right? So for example, say that I've prepared a building in this particular location. So something that I can do is just hide the building that is there, and then just bring something in, something that I've created before. So, right, so if I go to the import option, like so, and then I choose one of the buildings that I've created before. So for example, let me try to remember what it was. This one, 3 ways alternative Plan.City. If I open it up, you can see that that I've just imported a new building here, to which I've assigned certain materials, right? Those materials also here or bring alongside the model. Yeah, that's you could refine, that's one way of refining and creating new buildings that then you can see within the Plan.City app. You can modify the materials that the model, that they have applied to the model. Like so, I mean, we can probably change that to, I don't know, maybe a yellow color. I don't know, to whatever you like. Yeah, so it's just a way that you can use to work with your designs. And this is just something that I've created quite quickly. So it doesn't have any interior views or anything like that. But you can use this, again, in combination with any of the other tools that we have. So if we use this with the walking mode, for example, we can drop down to the model and just walk around the surface of the model, just as we would, right? It is with the rest of the model. Here we are, just traversing the roof of the newly imported building. And imagine that you managed to create well, the interior of a room or something like that. You could bring that as well and then visualize it within the real skyline outside of that room. So you can use this many different ways. Let's go back to the draw mode and talk about some of the other options. So that's the import and export option in a nutshell. Then we have another tool that works in combination with the builder tool, which is the viewshed one. The viewshed basically analyzes or gives you an idea about the areas where the building that you've designed is going to be visible from. So for example, we've created this quick sketch before, and now I want to know where that building is going to be visible from. So something that I can do is just come over here, specify the points that I want to analyze, like so, and set the simulation parameters. So choose the area over which I want to analyze, as well as the spacing between the points that are going to be analyzed, and then just run the simulation, let it run for a little bit, and this should give us this, as you'll see in a moment, will paint in yellow the areas from which this building is visible, and it will leave in blue the areas where we can't see the building from, according to those settings that we've used before. So we are conducting the analysis over an area 1,300 meters away from the building, and with a spacing of 6 meters between each of the analyzed points. You can see that spacing in some of the areas. For example, over here, where it wasn't properly painted, we could just increase the accuracy of the analysis just by decreasing the spacing between different points that were analyzed. But if we zoom out, you can see that it quickly gives us an idea of the areas that can and cannot see the building. So, for example, The area right behind this building, that's where we can't see our new design from, just right behind the church or these other buildings. We can take a screenshot from above if you want to export the results, just visualize them in Photoshop or somewhere else. You can do that as well. And finally, you can delete the simulation. Or again, you can use the walk-in character to just, well, make sure that the analysis is accurate. So for example, we are standing in an area which hasn't been painted, and if we try and look for the building, we can't really see it, but as soon as we step into the yellow area, we should be able to see it. And there it is. This is, you can see the building from here where it's yellow, but as soon as we step into the blue area, we can no longer see it, right? So that's basically how this tool works. All right, so switching back to the drone mode, and then let's analyze some of the other tools that we have here. Let's delete the simulation first, and then let's try to run the sky analysis tool. So what is the sky analysis tool? The sky analysis analyzes, as its name implies, a particular building, and it tries to determine how easy it is for a given point in the facade of that building to see the sky. So let's run that analysis. Let's start by analyzing a building, such as this one. Continue with the selected buildings. This will perform the analysis that we spoke about before, and it will paint on the facade of the building. It will paint the, well, how well those different points can see the sky. So for example, over here, it's all painted in green because there aren't any obstacles in front of those facade points that really obstruct the view. But if we look at this other facade right here, we can see some yellow and even some red values starting to appear, mainly because we have a big building behind the one that we are analyzing that obstructs the view to the sky. So this is useful for some of our clients that need those types of answers within the app in real time or as quickly as possible, and that's something that we can provide. And that's just like you can see this tool working, no reason why others couldn't work as well, such as overshadowing analysis, for example, visibility evaluations that go beyond what you saw with the view shed, things like that. So that's what Sky Analysis does. On top of that, you can always store temporary copy, store to disk, do things like that that will enable you to review your results, right? So for example, if we store a temporary copy, we first need to give it a name. So first test. Store a temporary copy, then we can go back, create a new shape. Well, first let's delete the previous one. And let's create a skyscraper right in front of the building that we want to analyze. Let's make it quite tall. And then let's go back to and analyze the previous building. So like that, continue with selected building. Let's see what the facade looks like right now. All right, so you can see that we have some red bits here. And we used to, and that facade used to be all shaded in green. So second, save this as the second test, as temporary copy. And let's now go back and review those two results. So the first test was mostly, we almost had, everything was almost green, whereas the second one, it starts to show some red area, part of the building that is facing that skyscraper. So yeah, that's the type of analysis that we can conduct using this tool. Then we can move on to the sunlight analysis, and this will give us an idea of how much sunlight a given volume receives throughout a specific period of time that we can define. So if I were to, well, probably delete this building, let's start by doing that. And then proceeding with the sunlight analysis, if first need to specify the volume that we want to analyze. Let's make it a bit more boxy. Let's rotate it a little bit and probably move it like so. Okay, let's try to probably place it even closer to this other building. Okay, so if you can see that the volume that we are going to analyze is made out of these tiny boxes, these tiny internal points that are going to be the locations that are going to be analyzed. We're basically going to be looking at the sun and retrieving how many of those points, internal points, can see it for a particular time of day or under certain conditions. And that will give us an idea of the, which areas are likely to be better lit, basically. The second part of this process is just selecting the time that we want to analyze. So for convenience, let's just perform the analysis in a given day, today, the 8th of November, and then we can perform the analysis. So this will take a little bit of time, but you can see that we can already start to see different values appear on the screen. So there are some very bright yellow ones at the top. These are the points that can clearly see the sun at all, at all times throughout the day, because they are, they don't have any obstructions around them. However, if we focus on the lower third of the building, especially this corner over here, where we see those purple values start to appear, those are the areas that receive the least amount of sunlight. So you might want to place things like, I don't know, bathrooms over there or things like that. You might want to conduct design choices according to the information that you get using these tools. Again, these are quite fairly simple analysis, fairly something that can be conducted quite quickly, but no reason, just like what we said about the data, there's no reason why you couldn't tailor-make these to your needs, and create other tools that might be more beneficial to you. These are just examples of things that some of the underlying technologies that would allow you to do so. So that's the sky analysis. We can also store these results to disk if you wanted to review them later on or save several of them. That's something that can also be done, but let's destroy the analysis for now. So that was the sunlight analysis. Then the inventory system is a way for us to quickly give you access to different little models that you can place around the scene, right? So different building blocks, street furniture, vehicles, letters, and numbers. This works quite well in combination with the presentation tool, for example, or you could even decide to create little scenes here. So, for example, if we want to, I don't know, place a bench over here, we could do so. More trees, for example, if you're working on a particular area and you want to place a couple trees. Maybe this is not the best place, but imagine that you're building something real quick, like a new building in a particular area, and you want to, dot its green space, its surrounding green spaces with a little bit of greenery. You could do that. You can place different vehicles, check the turning radius, for example, for a given vehicle. See if that fire engine is gonna, if you're gonna be able to, if it's gonna be able to turn and enter that street. You can modify the model. You can rotate it, for example. You can move it. You can basically do whatever you want, whatever you can imagine with these tools. So that's the inventory system in a nutshell. And then finally, we have the quick screenshot tool that does what it says. It takes a screenshot from a particular area. So for example, it captures what we are seeing on the screen at the moment. If I were to hit that button, it will take a screenshot in, it will save it at a particular location. You just, well, in a similar vein to what we saw with the presentation tool, you can store several camera locations just so that you can revisit them later on. So for example, say that you're working on a particular building, maybe with the inventory tool, you place several trees around, several benches, and you want to take pictures of the before and after. You can use that functionality to go back to the same view that you had before, and yeah, just take another screenshot, making sure that they would both overlap perfectly fine, and then you can take the images to an external editing program and overlap them, overlay them, in however you want, do that kind of thing. That's something that you can do through this option. And these are basically the tools that we have at our disposal right now. And I just checked the time. It's 2:56 at the moment, and quite quite on time. But yeah, I probably should stop right now and take a look at see if there are any questions um, that I can answer. Let me go back to the stream and check the questions. So I see that we have a few. Let me go back to the chat. Stop. Well, I might as well leave the screen open. Okay, so some of the questions. How does you remove people and cars from photogrammetry? Sometimes we remove people and cars manually. Sometimes we rely on some of the available techniques. For example, you have several images that overlap, and some of the cars can be seen from some of the pictures, but some can't be seen on some other pictures. Then that means that it's not something, it's something movable, so the software can automatically take care of that, or we can do that ourselves, because at the end of the day our capturing process is very manual, so we rely on people to produce very fragments, models that are very accurate but also clean. The geometry is quite clean as compared to other photogrammetry methods, right, that produce very noisy, very high poly meshes. The photogrammetry data is captured using planes, aerial photogrammetry, planes that fly every so often, and we retrieve the pictures that way. Can you turn the bespoke buildings white to not snow? Yep, you could do that. You can change the materials if you wanted to make the scene look like, more, more even. Sorry, someone is telling me about the time. And yes, you could do that as well. We offer the backend to our users so that they can modify the project however they want. So that's something that you also have access to. You can modify things from within the app, or tailor make the app to your liking, because that's something that we allow our users to do. Do we have Coventry and Birmingham? Yes, we have Coventry and Birmingham. We have a selection of cities, and both of those two are, we've captured both of those two. We have Dublin as well, Birmingham, Manchester, and a few others that I can't remember from the top of my head. Mostly in the UK, some outside of it. So yes, more than that cities. There's a massive push from Jake to have digital twins of everything. So why isn't this data being bought by the government and being made freely available? Interesting question, but I can't reply or talk on their behalf. I know that in some countries, they do that. Allow those models for free. So it's something that I can't probably, I'm not in the position to reply to that, because I wouldn't know the reason. But yeah, good question. Will this tool do butterfly solo shading analysis? I'll get to that one later. It it could do. I think I know what you mean, but I'll follow up on this one. I'll have the emails from. I think I'll have the emails later on from the attendees in these questions. So I'll make sure to reach out to you guys later on, if just because I think I know what you mean by that one, but I'm not completely sure. From Philippa, in walking mode, if you want to show a view, can you hide the person? If you want to show a view, can you hide the person? Yes, you can. Or you can hide the person. You can navigate to that particular view through with the drone system, or you could what? Or you could enter the first person mode as well. Can you pin specific view to use again with an updated design option? Yes, you can pin a specific, yeah, with the yes, by all means, just use the import tool to bring a new building. Use the picture tool to to go back to the view that you saved in. You're good to go. Is this app something that allows users to generate other areas of the country, or is it limited to just London? We have several cities available, and no reason why we couldn't generate more. But yeah, the specific app that you saw is used for London. Vehicle turn from Kieran. Vehicle turning movements. How accurate are they? Do you make reference to software such as AutoTurn, AutoTrack? They are accurate in terms of the turning radius that we could capture and that we could see through some of the PDF detail these turning radiuses, but we don't make reference to those two softwares, no. But no reason why, if you have those figures, why we couldn't reference them within the app. And any compatibility with Twinmotion? Yes, the Unreal project, I mentioned that we work with the Unreal project. We offer the Unreal project as well as the front end, the application that you just saw. So yeah, you can freely move between Unreal and Twinmotion using that. All right, guys. I think that covers all of the questions, and I'm gonna have to leave it here for today because our time is up. But please feel free to send any questions or any doubts or anything that you'd like to our email, or info@accuscities.com, or to my personal email, bryce@accuscities.com. I'm gonna leave it here in case you want to reach out. Let me just type it here, and that's it. Anything else, please again reach out to us, to me, to us. We are always more than happy to answer any questions. And again, if you have any suggestions, such as for example, the butterfly solo shading analysis, that I think I know what you meant with that, Jake. So I'll and that's a good idea that we could implement in the future, even though it's not there at the moment. So I'll definitely keep that in mind. But thank you very much, guys. Hope this was a bit useful, and yeah, really nice to have you here, even though I couldn't hear you, I think. But but yeah, speak soon, guys. Cheers.